So, of course, as far as beauty goes, it's hard to beat the Christmas tree as far as visual display, right? The lights, the ornaments, the ribbon, beautiful. But as far as giving a clear message about what it means, I'm not sure that the Christmas tree communicates a particular single message real clearly, other than just, here's a really lovely tree. For my money, if you want to send a clear, direct message, before you get to Christmas tree, maybe start with yellow caution sign, right? Now, I'm not suggesting anybody set up one of these in their family room and put presents underneath it. But one advantage of the caution wet floor sign over the Christmas tree is that you know exactly what this is saying, and it is designed both to get your attention in a startling way and to say real clearly, here's what I'm warning you about. If you go this direction, you're likely to slip and fall. If you go this direction, you won't be walking on a wet floor, right? It's pretty clear, and it's meant to be jarring. It's not meant to be particularly lovely. It's meant to get your attention, and part of its jarring design, its bright colors and clear, stark contrast between the bright yellow and the black text, is not meant to be lovely or quaint. It's meant to get your attention, and it does that in a way that Christmas decorations are just lovely in the background, right? So my reason for having this conversation about the difference between a wet floor sign and a Christmas tree is that before we get to the story we know, which can kind of feel sentimental because we know the beats of the story about the child in the manger and the shepherds and the angels, and to be honest, sometimes we kind of lull ourselves into comfort around that story. Before we get there, we get introduced to this like brash, bold, attention-getting, caution sign of a figure by the name of John the Baptizer. And he is as stark and out there and gruff as a bright orange plastic sign with bright black text. John's presence isn't meant to be something sentimental or romanticized. He's not there to make us feel more comfortable. He's there to call our attention to things. And before the public ministry of Jesus, before that time when Jesus goes around announcing the reign of God, John comes on the scene, cast in the mold of those prophets of ancient Israel and Judah's memory, those people whose job was to get people's attention and say, we're headed in a wrong direction, I want you to come back to a good direction. The job of a prophet is often a thankless one. Nobody wants to be told that they're headed down a bad path. And to get people's attention, sometimes you have to be bold and brusque and kind of stark in your messaging, right? You have to be bright and attention-getting like a bright yellow sign and not the soft glow of little Christmas lights. There's that old line of Flannery O'Connor that if you're trying to get the attention of people whose eyesight isn't very good, you have to use big gestures, and to people who are hard of hearing, you have to shout to get their attention. And in a similar way, John is one of those people who knows to get people's attention, who are basically falling asleep and complacent at the ways rottenness is taking over their lives and that they're pointed away from the reign of God. John's willing to be brusque and bold and like a bright yellow plastic caution sign. But I hope we can also hear that when John says things like, hey everybody, turn around, the reign of God is at hand, it's with that same love and care of, I don't want you to end up on the floor falling on a slippery floor. I want you to be able to walk on a good path. I want you to end up somewhere where you don't get injured. I want you to end up in a good direction rather than a bad one. And that sometimes the prophets and John the Baptizer have to say things that are startling to get our attention because we are so comfortable in our routines, especially in this season of the year. It is so easy for us to kind of go on autopilot of there's some things I do every Christmas time, and here's the list of things I do, and I don't even do it without any thinking or attention anymore. We put up the decorations, we buy the presents, we sort of go to this party and that event, and it can feel like we stop actually paying attention to the things that are going on that are rotten within our hearts and around us. John has this way of getting our attention, and it may not be fun or easy, but we need it. We'll get there eventually to the beauty and the majesty and the awe of the story of Jesus' birth. We'll get our moment around the Christmas tree, don't you worry. But first, maybe it's worth us looking around and listening for those voices maybe didn't want to have to hear. Maybe it's worth looking for where there are those construction sign kind of presences around us. I want to say wherever there's injustice, we need to be alerted to it. Wherever there's cruelty, we need to speak up against it. Wherever there's hatred and war, we could be the voices, or listening at least to the voices, saying that doesn't have to be our path. There's another way we can go. John needs to get our attention so that we don't just sleepwalk our way through the coming of the reign of God. And so maybe we need to be thankful. Maybe it's worth paying attention to those voices and those people in our lives who are brusque and loud and sometimes feel obnoxious and disturb our calm and pleasant sleep in heavenly peace, because we need people who will wake us up. Maybe it's worth asking, are there people whose voices I've been tuning out because I didn't want them to disturb my comfortable way of doing things? And maybe are there times God will lead you or me to be the voice that speaks up and says, no, hatred isn't okay. No, it's not okay that people are going to go hungry or without shelter in this season while other people are living with way more excess and abundance than they need. Voices like John say, wait, that's not how things are supposed to be. God's reign is breaking in now. We could be a part of it. Turn away from rottenness and injustice and greed and hatred, and turn toward the things that point us back in the direction of God's reign. That's what we need, and that's the conversation we're going to have this coming Sunday as we get reintroduced to John, who is God's caution sign in a world full of soft, comfortable lights. Join us for that conversation before we get to the Christmas tree in due time this coming Sunday.